All right, back with another tier list. We are doing every Super Bowl of the 21st century in terms of entertainment value. So we're starting with the Ravens, Giants. I know some people would start with maybe the Rams, Titans, but that was the 1999 season, even though it was in the year 2000. So I'm starting with Ravens, Giants. That's how I always view it. I'm using the numbers to put on a tier, but I'll tell you which teams played in it, so you'll know. But yeah. I mean, we get how tier lists work at this point. Let's just jump into it. Starting off with Ravens Giants, which was a complete disaster, quite frankly. It was not a competitive game. The Ravens defense was smothering throughout. So this is going to go in my 5 categories are classic, 1 to rewatch. I'll check out the highlights, as in like occasionally I'll check out the highlights. Then it was still entertaining, and then finally the Super Bowl party ended at halftime. That is where this one won. The Super Bowl party ended at halftime. Then we have Patriots-Rams, which was an incredible game, a big upset by the New England Patriots. The Rams were heavily favored with the greatest show on turf, but the Bill Belichick defense was great in that game. And Brady, I really think, played well. Like, his box score stats weren't great, but if you go back and watch that game, there was a lot of really good stuff. The Patriots got up pretty big, but the Rams came roaring back. They tied the game. And then, of course, the famous drive where John Madden said, just run the ball, play for overtime. They did not. They trusted Brady. I don't know if it's quite classic for me, but that's one to rewatch. That one was great. I mean, you know what? No, it's classic. It just is because of the whole origin story of Brady and everything. How can you not put that in classic? Yeah, classic feels fair for me. Then we had Buccaneers-Raiders, which is, again, as a Tampa Bay fan, I enjoy this Super Bowl. I enjoy going back and rewatching it and stuff like that, but I'm probably alone there. I think this is another Super Bowl party ended at halftime. This was, the Raiders did make it a bit of a game. I think people kind of forget that. They made it, a 14-point game, and they had the ball in the fourth quarter, but then they threw a pick six, and one of many pick sixes in that one, and that was kind of it. Then the Patriots-Panthers, which was another just really good game. I don't know if it started off slow, but then it just came offenses came roaring through the rest of that one. So for Super Bowl 38, this is one to rewatch for me. I think that the entire second half is fantastic. Definitely one that if it's on one of those channels, it's like, oh yeah, sure, let's hang around. Let's see. Oh, there's this part. Yeah, I think this is a fun one. Then we have another Patriots Super Bowl. This is against the Philadelphia Eagles. It's one where, I'll say I'll check out the highlights. I don't think it's quite as back and forth as the Panthers won. The Eagles, were kind of trying to come back at the end there. There was that weird clock management thing late. But other than that, it's still a competitive game, but I don't know if this was the best. In fact, I might actually even drop it down a tier 2, and it was entertaining. It was entertaining, but it wasn't the closest Super Bowl that we've seen. We actually have a run of maybe not the most entertaining Super Bowls in the mid 2000s, because it used to kind of be a thing where the Super Bowl was always the most boring game, it felt like, because Super Bowl 40 was the Steelers Seahawks, which was a bizarre game. If you remember how this game went, there was a lot of bad calls to the point where there was controversy. Was this was this game rigged? It was kind of an underwhelming game as well. I'll say I'm going to put it in Super Bowl party ended at halftime for me. It kind of felt like the Steelers were going to win this one. And then Colts Bears is interesting because, again, really after the opening kickoff, and hey, maybe the Bears can pull this off, it felt like it was all Indianapolis Colts. The Colts were the better team. I do have to say though, it still had that opening kickoff, though. And that alone, I'm going to bump it up a tier just because of the Devin Hester kickoff, which the story behind that is insane. I guess Tony Dungy, all preparing for the Super Bowl, the entire time, he was like, well, we're not going to kick it to Devin Hester. That's just a bad idea. Let's not kick it to him. And then he had a dream, and in a dream, he was reminded of a Bible verse that says, you shouldn't, fear your enemies. You shouldn't hide from your battles. And so he's like, you're right. We should kick it to Devin Hester, and then kicked it to Devin Hester, and then he returned it for a touchdown. Maybe there's some better ways of coming up with football strategy in that. I don't know. Perhaps. Then you had the Giants-Patriots Super Bowl, which is certainly iconic in terms of what it meant of the Patriots going 18-1 and the Giants finding a way to pull off one of the biggest upsets in Super Bowl history. The game itself, though, while an amazing ending to this game, was a bit of a slow burn. The first 3 quarters are not ones that you're going to pay close attention to. So I'm actually going to, maybe this is a hot take, I'm going to put this in, I'll check out the highlights. And I will check out the highlights. That ending, really the final fourth quarter is fantastic. But the first 3 quarters were kind of a bit of a slog to get through, to get to one of the best quarters in football history. So you could talk me into one to rewatch, but that's where I'm going with that. And then, one of the best Super Bowls of all time, the Steelers and Cardinals. This incredible back and forth game. So many big moments. The catch at the end. I guess you can't call it the catch. Other things are the catch, but you know what I mean. The toe drag, whatever you want to call it. The toe tap play. James Harrison 100-yard pick six. The Larry Fitzgerald running away from everybody play. This is a classic. This one was the best. This was one of the all-time great games. Cardinals, Steelers. And then we had the Saints-Colts. This feels like it was entertaining. Like, the final score ended up being kind of a blowout with it being a 14-point game. But, Peyton Manning and the Colts had an opportunity down 7 late in the fourth quarter to come back and tie. Peyton Manning throws the pick six, and that's all she wrote. So, again, as a Tampa Bay fan, this is one that I would put in, worst Super Bowl ever, because I'm not a huge fan of the Saints. But, again, being unbiased, I think it was pretty entertaining. It's a fair tier for this. Then we have the Packers-Steelers, which I think is another, it was entertaining. Like, it wasn't the best in the world. Like, the Steelers, weren't able to quite... Packers felt like they were going to win this game for most of it, but, there were still some moments here throughout, so I think that feels fair for me. Then we have the second Patriots-Giants game, which I would say was a better overall game than the first time. Even though the scoring wasn't that much higher, I still felt like there was a lot more to it. And a nearly identically good final fourth quarter. Now, the game around the game wasn't quite as big. No team was trying to go undefeated. But I'm going to put this all the way up in one to rewatch. I think that this was a really good one, in my opinion. Next up is Super Bowl 47. This was Ravens 49ers, which this was an interesting game as well in that I don't really know exactly how you rate the almost comeback game, right? Because obviously a comeback is usually always incredibly exciting, and a blowout is usually very boring. The game was a blowout, but then it all of a sudden turns into a close game again. But then you don't get that emotional high of oh my god, they did come back and take the lead. I don't think I can put it too high on the list. I think I'm going to put it in, I'll check out the highlights. A lot of still great moments in this. There was a kick return touchdown. There was, listen, 49ers came so close to winning the game. Like, the climax of this game was great. But again, the overall part of the game, I think there was some games that were stronger for the first, part of it. So, yeah, that's where I'm going with that. Then we have the Seahawks-Broncos in Super Bowl 48, one of the all-time blowouts, as literally from the first play, the Seahawks led with the miscommunication on the snap, resulting in a safety. This is definitely the Super Bowl party ended at halftime. I was at a Super Bowl party. This is before I was covering, before I had this channel, obviously, and I remember I was at my friend's house who's a Seahawks fan, and we were just all out by the pool. There was a TV there, but we were at the Super Bowl party, but it wasn't the game was almost like background noise for the second half. So, that's where that is. And then I was also at the same Seahawks friend's house for Super Bowl 49. That had a very different reaction. I still remember the screams of no in the back of my head when Malcolm Butler intercepted that football. This is a classic. This is an all-time great game. This might be the all-time great game. I mean, you think about the game around a game. Can the Seahawks be a dynasty? Can the Patriots be a dynasty? Because they only had 3 at that point, which is, only 3. But, that they hadn't been the team at that point. The Seahawks were trying to be the team. The game itself was legitimately great throughout. It wasn't just the ending. The Patriots ended up getting down 10 points in the fourth quarter, but it was back and forth through the first 3. Brady is perfect in the fourth quarter to go up 4 points, but the Seahawks get the ball all the way to the 1 thanks to like a circus catch, and then of course the Malcolm Butler play. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. Not much better. Then I had the Broncos-Panthers, which, we're going to have another one of these types of games of the kind of low-scoring, not a lot happening, methodical, defense-driven games, which I'm going to defend to some degree. I'm still going to put in the it was entertaining tier. I don't think this is a disaster. I enjoy competitive football. This game was a one-score game late in the fourth quarter before the Cam Newton doesn't dive on a fumble play. I don't know. There's a lot to like about this game. So because of that, I'm still going to put it there. It was not a disaster, even though it wasn't the most exciting Super Bowl that you will see. We then had Super Bowl 51, the iconic Patriots-Falcons game that, of course, 28-3. You say that, you immediately know which game someone's talking about. Just hearing 28-3, you know what's happening. Again, you could argue that the first 3 quarters weren't, great, but I don't know. I'm going to be honest. As a neutral fan, I never, at this point, didn't really hate Brady, but wasn't a Brady fan either. I'm a Tampa Bay fan, but this is before I never was a hater of, that's not true. I hated him when I was a kid, but once I got to this point, I was kind of neutral towards him. It was still kind of fun to see him get beat down though, right? It was kind of fun to see the Patriots get destroyed. So that part was still entertaining, but then when it turned and oh my God, did that just happen? How many big moments happened in that game? That's a classic. I mean, that goes without saying almost. Then we have the Patriots-Eagles, which you could put in the classic tier as well. It's certainly the top tier. I'm trying to decide exactly. I think I'm going to put it in one to rewatch just because I'm not always a huge fan of the complete offensive showdowns. I do like there to be some defensive plays as well, and it felt there were some defensive plays. It mostly was an offensive showdown. I also think you could say the climax of this game was not quite as good as some other games. It did kind of, the Eagles were able to get it done at the end. There was still a moment where Brady had a drive. Can he get it done? But pretty quickly on, he gets, sacked and fumbles the football, and that was kind of it. So still a great game, but I think I'm going to be a little bit tougher with the classics here. Not quite put it in there, but you could talk me into classic. I get it. But yeah, that's how I view that. And then we had the complete opposite, where the Patriots-Rams played a suffocating, defense-heavy game. I know some people would put it in the bottom tier, but I like this game. I don't know. This was the first year I was covering this stuff. Actually, I was so bad at marketing and stuff that when the Super Bowl happened, I had other videos about other players ready to post, and I just posted those and didn't even talk about the Super Bowl until 4 days later. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I didn't just make a Super Bowl video. That was weird of me. But yeah. I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was fun. It's the last time I watched a Super Bowl without being working while doing it. Not that I enjoy working. It's fun for me, but still there's that to it. But I don't know. My argument for this game is always there was a moment when the Rams kicked the field goal to make it 3-3, and it was kind of a long field goal, and they made it. And the feeling when they made it was oh my God, they did it. They tied the game, and it's you don't really get those moments in high scoring affairs. So yes, it's a very different game, and yes, I do still prefer higher scoring games to lower scoring games. There is a unique feeling that you get when watching a game like this that I don't think we should just try to ignore and try to get out of the game altogether. I enjoy these types of games, even if they're not for everybody. Then there is the Chiefs-49ers, first time that we saw them back in 2019. This was a really competitive game. I thought the Niners were going to do it. When the Niners went up 10 points, when they got the interception, already up 10 points with 10 minutes left, I'm that's going to do it. The Chiefs were able to bounce back, though. This was a really good game. I don't know if it's a classic. In fact, I don't think it's a classic, but this is one to rewatch. Just a really competitive game, back and forth throughout. So I would definitely, if it was on TV, even if it's the second quarter, still leave it on because it was a great one. So there's that. Then there's Buccaneers-Chiefs, which again, for me, I'm putting in classic. This is a great game for me, but I think for most people, this was a Super Bowl party ended at halftime as the Buccaneers really, once they got the touchdown at the end of the half to go up 2 scores, it kind of just felt like it was over, and it was, really. So there's that. Then we have the Rams-Bengals, which was another competitive game throughout. Actually, this was a really good game. It even ended with, Stafford gets the, drive to have the Rams go up at the end there. I do think if Burrow maybe gets a drive at the end to win the game for the Bengals, maybe we talk about this as a classic. That didn't happen, so I'm just going to go with one to rewatch. Still a really fun, competitive game. And I think for Chiefs-Eagles, I'm going the same way. I'm going one to rewatch. It was a back-and-forth game. That Jalen Hurts drive to get the 8-point touchdown and tie the game was great. Ton of moments throughout, a lot of scoring. So if that's what you're into, this is the one for you. Again, I think the win got taken out of the scales a little bit with the debate as to whether or not it should have been pass interference at the end there. Not the most exciting way to have the game end. I think if Hurts got another drive, maybe it could have been a classic, but still, one to rewatch for sure. And finally, just this past Super Bowl, Chiefs 49ers. Listen, if a Super Bowl goes into overtime, it's probably going to be a classic. Overtime was great in that Super Bowl. Like, the overtime itself was awesome. The fourth quarter was awesome. Maybe you could argue there was a bit of slowness early on, but I didn't hate the slow. Just because there's low scoring, things were happening early on. So, I don't know. I love that Super Bowl. I think it's an instant classic. That is my tier list. What's yours? Let me know in the comments below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.